Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of USO MVP. That is military virtual programming, where we bring you the best and the brightest from the world of entertainment and sports. And if you love football, you have come to the right place. My name is Chris Jacobs. I'm honored to be your host. And my guest today is notable former NFL player, coach, analyst, current head coach of the ASU Sun Devils, Herm Edwards. Coach, great to have you with me, man.
It's good to be with you, Chris. Thank you for allowing me to participate in tonight's event.
My pleasure. I guess I don't have to ask you where you are right now. The Sun Devil symbol on the wall behind you tells me that you are in your office, and I understand the Pac-12 is getting ready to play some football pretty soon. What can you tell us about the latest news?
Well, we're excited as a conference, and I think the fans that follow the Pac-12 are excited as well. We kick it off on the 7th of November against USC. We go on the road. It's only going to be a 6-game schedule. The winners of that will play a 7th game, and then also the Pac-12 championship game. So we're excited about the opportunity to play football again.
Now, Coach, I got to say that you are one of few in your illustrious NFL career to have a bunch of different milestones. The first of which I think is kind of like an Iron Man milestone. You did not miss a game while you were playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you played for them for 9 years and you didn't miss a single game. That's amazing.
Very fortunate. I was very fortunate my whole career, from high school to college to professional football. I never missed a practice, never missed a start. So I was very fortunate that way.
That's
I guess
awesome.
Good genes. I got them genes from my mom.
You got your mom gave you great genes. That's amazing. I think the other thing I'm most impressed by is you actually have a famous play named, well, not after you, but for you. You were the star of the Miracle at the Meadowlands, which, is amazing if you read about what happened, the fact that a coach would allow that to happen. Being a football head coach yourself, can you believe that they didn't take a knee?
Well, the knee did not come into vogue until after that play. It happened in 1978, actually. This next month in November, the play happened. And from that Sunday on, the victory formation took place in pro football, now college football, high school football, wherever you may have it. But it's kind of ironic because it happened in New York.
Yeah.
New York, there's 2 ways to go. You're either really good or really bad. There's no in between in New York.
Well, of course, the play I'm talking about is when Coach Edwards was on the Eagles and the Giants had the ball. The Eagles didn't have any timeouts left. And instead of taking a knee, which is what would happen these days, Zonka fumbled a running play. Coach picked it up and ran it in for the score. What would that be called? A fumble 6?
I get it was 6. And the crazy part about it, our coach at that point was Dick Vermeil, a really good friend of mine, and he never saw the play. His back was turned with the offense, saying, if we get one more snap, this is what we're going to try to do. And players are running off the bench, and he grabbed one of them and said, where are you guys going? He said, Herms just scored a touchdown, Coach. He never saw it.
That's amazing. Yeah, he figured the game was over. No bother watching. Hey, I want to remind everybody who is joining us that you can ask Coach a question if you would like. Just use your Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Type in your question, and we will try to get to as many of those as possible. Coach, our focus today is a program called Soldiers to Sidelines, which is a great program that helps veterans who are transitioning into civilian life by placing them into coaching positions in a variety of sports. We have a video that we want to show right now that will let everybody know what exactly Soldiers to Sidelines is all about. Check this out.
Make them get in the middle of the ring and try to fight you. They don't want to fight you. Make them fight. Physical, play smart, and have goals. That's all we got to do. We're going to win us a football game.
Daniels is rolling, looking for a downfield shot. Lofts it to Darby, and is landing, and dances into the end zone.
Wow. For real, you know what it is. Get it.
Riddell stacked up. I think they stopped him. And a huge stand for this defense.
Right where we want it.
Chase from behind. Picked off. Threw it right into traffic. And it's picked off by Jack Jones. Daniels takes his shot for Darby. A touchdown. Darby, a monster night. and his quarterback another pretty throw, and the upset plot thickens in Tempe.
A great throw by the young true freshman.
Low snap. Herbert goes into traffic. It's picked off again. Curse Thomas. And a bad night is getting more dismal by the play for the Ducks.
Not pulling off the gas. Let's go!
Lead. They're getting a little wobbly. The downfield shot to Ayuk. The foot race. They won't get him. Wow. 81 yards.
What I'll tell you, man.
And Arizona State, given little chance, writes another chapter in the upset history here in the desert. The Ducks are done as playoff contenders.
That was a heck of a win, but let me tell you something else. For that win, help me to help you. You don't come back until Tuesday.
That's got to get you fired up to play some football. That is such a great video. I remember that game. What an awesome upset. And I think that the coolest thing about that game was that it was a battle of the two teams that have the coolest uniforms and uniform options in all of college football, in my opinion.
They have a great ensemble. There's no doubt. They don't run out of uniforms. They can actually play in one uniform the first half and have another one in the second half.
But
But
tell you what, the Sun Devils have been giving them a run for their money as far as cool uniforms go.
yeah, it's hard to figure it out too. I can remember when I played football, you had a home uniform and a away uniform, and you had one helmet. Now we have numerous helmets, numerous uniforms. I never know how they're going to dress.
Yeah.
I kind of walk in the locker room before, when they're getting dressed, like, oh, that's what we're wearing this week. I can't figure that out.
It's so cool, and seeing that video, like I said, must get you so pumped up to start playing some football.
Well, it does. And when you beat an opponent like that was nationally ranked at home, and we were on a bad losing streak. We had lost 3 or 4 in a row, and we needed to win a game again, to feel good about ourselves. And obviously from that game, it propelled us the next 3 games. We ended up winning out, even a bowl game. So that helped us finish the season in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's talk a little bit about Soldiers to Sidelines. Obviously, there's such a great segue from military service to leadership on the sidelines. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, when you think about it, they're compatible. When you think about the service and how that all comes together, it's no different than a team, right? It's a bunch of individuals collectively that have to come together and understand their roles and understand the importance of their roles. No different than a football team. And I say that my father was in the service. He served our country 22 years. He was a master sergeant. He fought in the Korean War and World War II. So I know a lot about the service. And I think there's a mutual understanding that it's kind of ironic, when you bring a team together, they're from all different walks of life, as well as the service. When you joined the service, or even when I was growing up, you were actually drafted. There was a draft, right? And you'd meet people from all over America, from different states, different communities, and you came together and you knew that you needed each other to coexist and to make sure that you protected each other. It's no different than a football team. There's a lot of different personalities in the room, and personalities are great, but they can't be bigger than the room. And you have to understand that you need the guy to your left and to your right to be successful.
Yeah, when you say you grew up with a coach, you really mean that. I mean, your dad was in the service when you were born. You were born on a military base, is that right?
I'm in New Jersey, actually.
Yeah. So and you moved around quite a bit. I mean, yours is the kind of that typical military youth story where, because it was your dad's life, it was your life. So you're very familiar.
No doubt. And there was a lot of moving. We moved 3 times basically, but then when we settled in California, I actually grew up on the Monterey Peninsula. That's where I kind of grew up, and then from there went to high school and then went to Cal Berkeley in college. Ended up at San Diego State my senior year, and then went on to professional football. But the thing I learned at an early age is the sacrifices that the military folks have to make. Leaving their families, their loved ones, and really. The thing that I learned at a very young age, and my father used to always tell me this, said, son, freedom is not free. It's not free. People sacrifice every day for your freedoms, and you got to respect that and you got to cherish that. And the military has been a part of my life. I lived on an Army base. I watched it. So I understand how important it is and how important these folks are in our everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Monterey Peninsula, one of my favorite places on earth. What a gorgeous place. And you're a lucky man to be able to live there for a little while and go to high school there. Coach, I'd love to bring in some service members live right now. I want to send it out to Fort Huachuca, which is one of our USO offices there. Huachuca, sorry, I totally butchered that name.
That's a hard
but Fort Huachuca, if you could join us, please. Hey, how you doing? Welcome.
Hey, welcome. I'm Amy. This is Jolene, and we're here from Fort Huachuca, USO. We've got some excited active duty service members and their families here tonight. We just want to thank you so much, Mr. Edwards, for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Jolene. Yeah, whoever's ready with a question for Coach, step on up, introduce yourself.
I actually have a question.
Volume 23.
I was curious, what was your favorite stadium to play in as a player? And what's your favorite stadium now to go to with your team and play?
Well, the favorite stadium now is Sun Devil Stadium. As a professional football player, probably the historical stadiums. I would say every player in the National Football League, when you get a chance to go to Lambeau Field, there's a lot of history there. And I think if you've grown up being a football fan, whether you're a Packer fan or not, I know one thing, all young players, when I had an opportunity to coach teams up there, or even myself, they catch the first bus to go to Lambeau Field. You want to go to that field early.
Volume 26.
Out of the locker room early and walk on the field and just walk around the stadium because there's so much history there. So I would say for me, it was Lambeau Field.
Great question and great answer there, Coach. Who else would like to ask Coach Edwards a question? Come on, no time to be shy. Step on up.
Hey, sir, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome, pleasure meeting you. My name's Sergeant Green. I know you've been in the game a long time. I would say, my question would be, what's your favorite time frame throughout all of your time thus far?
Oh, boy, I would say this, probably, and I say this for one reason, we all have aspirations as young people, and growing up, believe it or not, I was a Dallas Cowboy fan. I was a Cowboy fan, and I wanted to play professional football, obviously, and I would say my rookie year, when I was introduced coming out of the tunnel in Philadelphia as a starter in the National Football League, that was probably a moment that I'll never forget. It's kind of ironic, because you grow up being a Cowboy fan, you go to Philadelphia, and after the first game, guess what? You're not a Cowboy fan anymore when you're an Eagle. So I had to lose. I have no allegiance to the Cowboys anymore.
Well, Coach, follow up on that a little bit, because you're talking about going to a team that in the same division as the team you grew up rooting for. What was that like going to Dallas to play them for the first time? Well,
it was amazing. When you stand on the sideline and you're getting ready to cover like Drew Pearson and Roger Staubach is the quarterback, and I looked on the sideline and there's Tom Landry, a man that I really admired, from afar. I didn't know Coach Landry at all, but just loved the Cowboys and knew who he was. And when you walk into certain stadiums and you grew up watching them on television, you actually go in there to play. You're a professional football player. You act like, well, I'm used to this. You're not used to it. I mean, you're like a little 10-year-old kid. You're like, I'm in this stadium and I'm playing against the Cowboys, and there's Tom Landry, right? I mean, it's just kind of ironic. The story I always tell people is really funny. Is back in 1968, Joe Namath was the quarterback for the New York Jets, and if you know the Jets' history, they won the Super Bowl. That was when he was doing all this, and he predicted they would win. And you spin the clock forward, right? And so time goes by, and I'm in high school then. And lo and behold, my rookie year, we played the Rams. And the Rams then were in LA Coliseum. Joe Namath had got traded to the Rams. So he was the starting quarterback for the LA Rams. And I walk into the Coliseum and, I'm walking in down the aisle going to the locker room, and I look behind me and Joe Namath is coming. I'm kind of looking, I'm saying, this is Joe Namath. This is the guy I saw on television, right? And I'm going to play against Joe Namath. And lo and behold, in the first quarter, he throws a deep pass to Harold Jackson, and I intercept it. So now the story gets better. Now my first NFL interception is against Joe Namath, a guy I watched win the Super Bowl. So the game's over, and I have the ball wrapped up, and I'm walking, and both teams are going back into the tunnel, and I'm walking with the ball. And I asked some of these veteran players, I said, "Hey, you think if I had this pin and I had Joe Namath, would he sign my ball?" And they said, "You don't do that, rookie. You can't ask Joe Namath to sign your football." I mean, you can't make it up. I'm saying I intercepted Joe Namath. I still have the ball at home, by the way.
Amazing. That's a great story, Coach. Hey, Woo Chu, pronounce it for me because I'm just totally butchering this. Does anybody else have a question there? Wachuka.
There you go.
Or Wachuka. I can do it on the third try. Who else has a question there for the coach? Anybody? Does everyone want to do a collective wave to the coach?
We're waving.
There we go. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us there. Thank you very much for your service.
God bless you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys enough, and ladies as well.
Coach, let's get to a couple questions from the chat feature that people have submitted for you. This comes from Will Huff, and he wants to know, Coach, what role did athletics and your youth coaches have on you as part of your military family?
They were part of your family when you think about it. It starts at a young age for young people. The coaches they have at an early age, the mentorships, and the mentoring that goes on, and really keeping you grounded. In today's world, the world we live in now is very noisy because of all the information you can gather, right? And, back when I grew up, you had a coach and he was like your guy. I mean, you listen to the coach. Well, now you get so many other people in your ear. Everybody's a coach except the coach, right? Everybody thinks they're the coach, but the coach. And so for me, the first time you played football, any kind of organized sport, you had a coach. And that was the guy you respected because he was your coach. And so the fundamentals of that were important to me. I still visit my high school coach. I still visit with him. I mean, I see him when I go home. He was a big part of my life, teaching me how to play football, actually.
Did you know that you were going to get into coaching during your football career? Is that something that you always had in your mind?
I felt I wanted to give back to football. I'm indebted to the game of football. My whole life, I tell people all the time, I've never had a job. I was a football player. I was a good enough athlete to gain a scholarship to go to anywhere in the country. Probably when I came out of high school, I chose Cal Berkeley right out of high school, and then went on and had a professional career. And after that, started coaching. So you're talking 30 years in the NFL, coaching and playing. And then I put makeup on and talked about it on television, right? About almost another decade, and then decided to come back to Arizona State. So I've really never had a job. I've been involved in it. I'm indebted to the game. I'm always trying to make the game better in what I say and what I do. So the information I have now, I give to my players and to my coaches to instill in them, to make sure we keep the game and the sportsmanship of the game intact.
Coach, this question comes from Brady Nix. If you feel like sharing, what is your toughest moment as a coach, and how has that experience shaped who you are as a coach today?
Probably the toughest moment is when there's two tough moments, obviously, in professional football, when you have to cut a player, especially a veteran guy that maybe has been on your team and his family, his children, right? I mean, that's a tough deal. It's a tough deal to cut a guy, because now what you're basically telling him is, like, you can play, but not here any longer, right? We're going in a different direction, or a guy's beating you out. I mean, that's always difficult. In college, it's really, you have 110 athletes. But when you think about the roster, out of 110, probably 45 are going to play. And the rest of the guys are really not going to play. They're going to be backup guys, and you're trying to always to motivate them to continue to try to get better. So eventually one day they will have an opportunity to play. So that's always difficult for, especially for high school athletes when you recruit them, because this recruiting thing, they feel all good. And all of a sudden they come here and they go, oh, there's competition. Yeah, there's competition, a lot of competition. And sometimes they don't get to play as quick as they'd like.
And just going back to your, difficulty with having to cut a player, is that something that the head coach always does, or is that someone from the front office will do sometimes?
Yeah, the front office, but eventually the veteran guys, you want to see them. So they come in your office, you visit with them. And most guys know. I mean, the one thing we do know about this sport, you don't play it or coach it forever. Eventually, they're going to ask you to leave or whatever's going to happen, or you're going to retire. Most of the time you don't retire. They ask you to leave nicely.
Call it retirement.
Yeah, but you don't take it personal. I don't think you ever could take it personal. I've been traded, I've been cut. I mean, anything involved, I never took it personal. You don't get mad at the game. It's just your time runs out, or they want to go in a different direction, and it has nothing to do with you as a player or as a coach. It's not like you're not a good player or a good coach. They're going in a different direction. That's part of it.
Yeah, and in fact, you had the unique experience of being traded as a coach.
Traded, yeah. There's not many. Only 3 of us in the NFL have been traded. So that was an interesting one.
I'll bet. Coach, one more for you from Timothy McDonald. Great question here. Do you ever watch the Army-Navy game? And if so, what are your thoughts as you're watching?
I actually watched it in person because it used to be played in Veterans Stadium when I played for the Eagles. A game was great. I mean, great tradition. Yeah, I watch it. Yeah. That's one game I always watch because it's just tradition. It's built. And it was really funny when they would come in there into Veterans Stadium, the old Veterans Stadium where the Eagles played. We would always be there on Saturday because we played on Sundays. And if it was a home game or away game, we had a little walkthrough on Saturday and we knew those guys were coming in. I mean, that thing was packed. And it was just fun to watch the tradition and the excitement when those two competitors got together. Fun game to watch.
Coach, this one is from Raymond Howard. He'd like to know, do you have any veterans that coach on your staff now, or have you ever had veterans on your staff in the past?
I've had a couple of veterans. When I was with the Eagles, on our staff now, let me think. I don't think on our staff now, no veterans. I think in Kansas City, I had some veterans as well. So there is a presence. There is a presence in the NFL. And I would assume in college as well. There's a presence.
And just a follow-up question to that, Coach, from Raymond, what advice would you give a military person on transitioning to civilian life?
Well, it's like anything else. What do you do with your time now? Because we are all structured. We live in this structured world, right? And when you're a military guy, you there's certain things every morning you get up, you do, and now all of a sudden you have to start your own routine. And what does that look like? Discipline is part of the makeup of any military man or woman, right? You're a disciplined person. You understand. I get this one. You get up early. I get up at 4:30 every morning to work out, right? I mean, you get up early. So it's just a matter of, understanding what your priorities are. And it's always tough because you've been in this routine your whole life. And all of a sudden that's going to change. And you got to be able to adjust. And there's an adjustment. There really is. There's an adjustment period. I've done this for how many years? I can remember my dad when he retired. It was one of those deals. He got a job, outside of the Army, but the adjustment that he went through all of a sudden that he had to go through, he was a master sergeant, and it was like, okay, so guess what? I caught the brunt of that. Of being the kid of a master sergeant, there was some discipline, there was some order, there were some things that needed to be done. And you had to get them done correctly.
That's amazing. Will Huff has a great question for you, Coach, referring to Pat Tillman, of course, who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Says, how do you continue the legacy of Pat Tillman with the ASU football team?
Well, it's all over the stadium. I mean, there's statues in one of the end zones, as you know. We have a Pat Tillman run every year here. I mean, he is well beloved here. There's no doubt about it for his sacrifice. And, I had met Pat when I was coaching. He was in the league when I was coaching, right? And And I know he's a California guy, grew up in San Jose, and you know, I know the history. But it was a tremendous loss. There's no doubt about it. But he is held in high esteem here with every student athlete that enters our doors.
And rightfully so. Osvaldo Ortiz would like to know, says, Coach, it's an honor to listen to you tonight. His question is, how important to have mentors has it been for you? And could you share the most important insight that you've received from a mentor? That's from
Well, yeah, it is important to have mentors. It really is. And I think any good mentor will tell you this. Eventually, you have to be you. You cannot take on the personality of someone else, especially if you're going to go into the coaching profession. And I see a lot of young guys do that at times. That's a mistake. You know, coaching is about earning the player's trust. Can they trust you? Are you doing things to help them grow mentally as well as physically? They'll respect that you're the coach, but you got to earn their trust, right? There's a two-way street here. You know, because a player wants to know, how is this coach going to get me better? At any level, high school level, college level, professional level. How is the coach going to get me better? And can I trust him? And that's earned. That is earned. You know, they got to know that I can trust this coach, that he has my best interest in mind. That's from the starter to the backup guy. Because, you know, it's easy to coach the starter. It's easy to coach the great athlete that's going to play. But how about the third string guy? How do you coach him? He wants to be coached too. So that's a part of the deal.
Yeah, that's an important distinction to make too between respect and trust, because they're coming in with respect, of course, because that's how it's always been. But to earn their trust, that's an important distinction to make. Another question from Brady Nix, who checked in with us previously. He says that in Soldiers to Sidelines, we talk about having a coaching beacon to help keep us grounded and focused on what's important. What has served as your coaching beacon?
Oh, my faith. No doubt about that. I mean, that's first. It keeps me grounded. You know, I live by faith, not by sight. And, you know, coaching it looks fun when you win, right? It looks fun on the sideline or in the locker room. You come in the locker room. There's a lot of dog days, you know, dog nights. There's long. I mean, but you chose the profession. It didn't choose you. So I'm not wanting anyone to feel sorry for any coach, and for me especially. You know, I feel sorry for me. I know exactly. Now I'm a little bit crazy because I came back to coaching. You know, at 64 years old, people say, "What are you doing? You're on television, man." But you know, it's part of it's just part of my DNA, and I just think that, you know, you have to be who you are, and there's going to be some dark times, and how you handle that will really kind of define who you are as a coach.
Yeah, and Coach, talk a little bit about the difference between coaching professionals and coaching college athletes, because, you know, we all know that the NFL is a business where college football is for the love of the game. Do you prefer coaching at the college level? Both mean are very important to me. Pro football is one where, you know, it's how they make their living. And they're wired really tight, because every year there's this thing called a common draft, and they're going to draft people to try to take your job. You know, and on the college one, college kids are, you know, 18 years old, you get them, and you're trying to develop young men, right? I've always said, we need to make them the best version of who they are when they leave here. Yeah. The one thing, and I tell every family, look, I can't give your son talent. God gives him talent. I give him knowledge. I'm going to give him knowledge. How he uses that and how he processes that, that's very important. As far as him playing in the NFL, I said, I can't promise you that. I can promise you this, though. He's going to get a degree. I'm going to make sure he does that. I mean, because that is my, you know, that is what I tell every parent. He's going to get a degree. We're going to make sure he does that, because he's a student athlete. He's not a professional athlete yet. He's a student athlete. And I want these guys to enjoy being a student athlete, right? You know, everyone's in a hurry to grow up or to leave. I always tell people, don't be so fast. Enjoy this time you have here in college, because eventually when it ends, the real world is hard. Yeah.
The real world is not easy, right? And you've been in this little bubble your whole life being an athlete. And if you no longer can be an athlete, because remember, only 2% of all the college kids that come out of college are NFL players. 2%. That's it.
Yeah.
That's not a big number.
No. And then after that, I think the average NFL career is 4 years, maybe
Not
less.
even that. It's 3.3.
Yeah. So, the life eventually.
Yeah, it comes, eventually, I always tell players this, football, sports, if you're an athlete, it's an opportunity, it's not a career. Eventually it ends.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you don't get to choose when it ends. It doesn't end on your time. It kind of ends.
Yeah.
And then what are you going to do when it ends?
Right. It's going back to what you were talking about earlier, where you retire.
Yeah.
It's not always the choice. Coach, another question for you. This one comes from Manny Lamson at Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. And he asks, Coach.
He's a Cowboy fan, I know.
Yeah, you know him?
No, but I know he's a Cowboy fan. He's in Texas.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. He says, Coach, he's actually a Washington State Cougar.
Cougars. Okay. Cougars.
Go Pac-12. Yeah. He says, has your coaching style and technique over the years changed much from when you started or the level at which you coach now? If not, what advice can you give to young coaches developing a style to lead and coach young men or women after the military?
Well, I would say this. You have an advantage already if you come out of the military. You're very organized in your details. And the details matter. Make no mistake. More games are lost than won due to the fact that the details aren't quite right? And so that has always been my premise. Be organized, be detailed, be efficient. Kind of sounds like the military, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's a chain of command. There's how it goes. This is, I love personalities, as long as the personality is not bigger than the team, but there is organization. There is no waste of time. I don't like wasting people's time. Everything to me is timely, and there's an orderly fashion. Not overcoming, but there's an orderly fashion. And I think if you do that, you got a chance.
Coach Anthony Thomas says that his last Air Force duty section, he was in charge of 30 different functional experts of various skill sets. Knowing that he could not be an expert at all 30, his only recourse was to make sure that he found the tools that all 30 needed. To be the best, what would that look like from a head football coach's perspective?
Well, I think the first thing you realize is when you're in leadership position, know what you don't know. And make sure you hire people around you that know. Right? I mean, that's how it works. I mean, as a head coach, you have to lean on other people. And so the things that you don't know or not comfortable, you hire people that have strengths in those areas. And that's how you build your team. Right? I mean, that's always been my philosophy on coaches. I said, I'm going to hire some coaches that maybe are a little bit more particular about this than I am, but are experts. And that's what I always say. Be an expert at what you do. We live in a world now that it's funny. We can gather a lot of information, but we're not an expert in anything. I would say, what is your expertise? Yeah. I ask young people all the time. Funny question. I ask them this, and it's amazing when you ask them this question, they look at you like, huh? I go, what is your purpose? They look at you, what do you mean? What's your purpose? What are you trying to get out of life? What is your purpose? And most of the time they can't answer. I say, you don't have to answer right now, because it's a hard question.
Yeah.
It's a hard question, but you need to figure out
thinking about that. And that's the key.
You need to figure out your purpose in life. Most people don't. We live in a world that puts us on a conveyor belt, that we just kind of go along. But what is your purpose? Why are you? What are you living for? What are you trying to accomplish? Right?
Yeah, and if you consider that, if you're thinking about that, it's much easier to figure out what your purpose is. Because if you
Exactly.
don't think about it, you're never going to figure that out. Coach Ramsey F wants to say thank you very much for your time and your knowledge tonight. He just wanted to pass along that compliment to you. Will Huff, thank you very much for your props. I really love doing this USO MVP series, so I appreciate you saying that. All right, here's a good one for you, Coach. This comes from Alex Maravilla. What are your thoughts on the Jets? And he probably means, what is the deal with those guys?
Well, they're struggling right now. Look, it's like anything. When there's inconsistency at the quarterback position due to injury, due to whatever it may be, it's very hard to function offensively, right? I sit from afar now, but I still keep my eyes on them. I was privileged enough to be the head coach there. And I'm pulling for them because when you haven't won a game, I know how tough that is. It's tough. And in New York, when you don't win a game, oh boy, it's really hard. But hopefully if they can get the quarterback solidified, Flacco's playing for them now. The kid from USC is banged up a little bit. Donald, he's got a chance to be, I think, a good player, but they're just going through a tough stretch. They just need to win a game. If they can win a game, you'd be surprised how much all of a sudden they'll feel better about themselves.
Yeah, that momentum can be a heck of a thing once you get that process. Just ask my Chicago Bears what momentum means. I mean, they're 5-1 and no one can believe it. It's incredible.
Good. Go Bears.
Gotta love it. This one comes from Ryan Brass. Great question also. What assignment as a position coach was your favorite? And he says, go Bucs, Tampa Bay fan.
Yeah, Buck. I work for the Bucs. Bruce Arians is a good friend. Obviously, they have Captain America down there now, so they're pretty good. Captain America quarterback, right? Tom Brady.
Yep.
A secondary, coaching the secondary. I played the position, and I really love coaching the secondary. I coached him in Tampa for a while, coached him in Kansas City. I was in Kansas City twice as a head coach, but as a position coach as well. And really got my first shot in coaching when I retired at San Jose State and actually coached the secondary there for 3 years, then went on into professional football before I became a head coach. But the secondary, it's a fun position. I will say this to be nice, got a lot of A personalities that play in the secondary, right? That's a hard room, boy. It's a hard room now.
Do you consult with your DBs coach at ASU?
Yeah, I told him.
Do you have more of an influence in that department than other departments?
When I hired him, wherever I've been in professional football or college football, I said, man, you got the toughest job on this staff because the head coach played the position. So I might have some advice every once in a while.
Coach, this one comes from Harrison Campbell. He says, Coach, how was it making the transition from coaching to being a TV analyst? How tough was it to adapt to doing something new?
It's like riding a bike. When you're on television, you never stop coaching. I was just coaching America. I didn't have a team. But generally, when I came on, I talked about football, and so I stayed in it. I never left it. Sometimes these teachers and professors in college, they take sabbaticals. I took a sabbatical. I went on television, but I never got away from being mentally involved in coaching the game of football or watching the game. I was fortunate enough to coach the Under Armour High School All-American game for about 8 years. I was a head coach doing that. Broke my daughter's hearts because we go to Disney World every year, spend the whole week. When I took a job at ASU, they said, Dad, we can't go to Disney World anymore. I said, no, we can't go to Disney World anymore.
You can still go. It's just a much longer drive.
That's exactly right.
Coach, I'm not sure if you have an answer for this, but I'm gonna read the question anyway because it's probably something that people want to know. This comes from Alex Marvia again. Are there other opportunities with Soldiers to Sidelines that are not coaching positions? Says he was working with the LA Memorial Coliseum for the USC Trojans football before COVID. Not sure if I will be at the game yet with COVID protocols in effect. So do you know anything about other opportunities besides coaching?
Sure there is. You can go on the other side of it, recruiting and scouting. A lot of people go into it and want to be, from there you can, affiliate, like in pro football, there's a GM, a general manager, but in college, the recruiting is big. 80% of your life is recruiting. You'd be surprised at the recruiting staffs that are assembled now and all those things. An analyst, you can be an analyst. or you're not on the field so much, but you're watching tape, you're a part of the process. You can be a GA if you graduate, from a college. You can be a GA where I think it's 7 years out. You have to be less than 7 years out. You can actually come back and coach. You can be like an assistant to the position coach, right? So there's a lot of different opportunities.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that, because Ramsey F also wants to know, are you currently looking for any offensive GAs for the next season?
Not right now. We're full, but send me your resume. Well, we keep resumes on file because, coaches always, especially college, they switch a lot. They move around a lot. And sometimes you get better opportunities, because every coach wants to advance. So there's always this pool of people that you have at hand, and you're always looking for young guys.
Well, there you go, Ramsey F. Send your resume to Coach Edwards. You never know what could happen. And for everybody who wants more information about Soldiers to Sidelines, you can visit their website, soldierstosidelines.org. Tons of information there. And it's just a cool site. Some great videos there, very inspirational. So definitely check that out, soldierstosidelines.org. Coach, I want to let you know that people are joining us from Arizona, North Carolina, Virginia, Texas, Italy, California, Georgia, Germany, Washington, Missouri, and Nevada. So a lot of people joining us, checking out some of your football knowledge. And Coach, being a military family member, I want to give you an opportunity to offer some words of support and encouragement to all of our service members who are joining us.
Well, I would say this, being a former Army brat, actually, I can't thank you enough for your service and what you mean to our country. And it's not said enough, all the sacrifices you make. You have loved ones as well, but the sacrifices that you make for our country, it doesn't go unnoticed. And I think sometimes it's not said enough. We just take things for granted. But I can't thank you folks enough, men and women, for your service for this country. And without you, the freedoms that we do have are not free. And I think sometimes that's not said enough. But God bless you. God bless your families. And thank you for being part of this program tonight. It was very important for me to be on this program, by the way. I was very excited about having the opportunity to do this.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, Coach. This was an excellent discussion. I want to wish you and the Sun Devils the best of luck. I can't wait to see the cool uniforms you guys bust out. I hope you guys go 6-0 and make it to that 7th game. So best of luck to you, Coach. Thanks again. And thank you to everyone for joining us. You can check out uso.org/MVP for more information on upcoming USO MVP events. Coach, thanks a lot, man. Best of luck to you.
Thank you now.
We'll see everybody on down the road.